Hi, Geoff here. I'm out in the Saudi Arabian desert on a nature reserve. There's some beautiful tree planting around here. They've had a great success, but I can see how they can improve things with earthworks, imprinting, swales, gabions, things like that, that'll rehydrate the landscape, rehabilitate it faster, go into succession quicker, and come up into an abundant, life-rich, healthy desert that we can do all kinds of things with apart from create wildlife reserves. Let me show you what I can see in the landscape that we can really do to improve things. Here is a wonderfully successful 10-year-old planting. I'll take you through there soon, and it's literally like a small deserted savanna there. It's a good job, but actually they haven't taken into consideration the water flows. When it rains, and it does rain, these hard surfaces like this gravel road, and particularly this tarred road, runs off. And just over the road there's a very expensive planting with lots and lots of irrigation. From the success of the 10-year-old system, they brought in a team who put in 80,000 trees on irrigation, and very few of them actually worked. Now, I'm here visiting the site. We're actually collecting seed, and I've just gone from my normal sort of wander to have a look at things. And I just went on a water detective mission, like I often do, and I've ended up right here. So here's a speed bump, and here's quite a bit of water erosion in front of me. And then I distinctly see that the vegetation drops off where the runoff from the road stops contributing to the landscape. So where it starts to run off the road, we get some vegetation, then it gets a little bit lusher, but the trees haven't worked on their planting. Now you can see where the water's accumulated here. And next to the road, if I just move over a little bit, next to the road, you can see the trees worked. And then there were 2 or 3 or 4 patches through the side of the plantation that have worked. And I immediately said, why? There must be a low spot. There's something going on. No. It must be the type of trees. It must be the planting. It must be the irrigation. Well, it could be the irrigation, but the whole thing's been very expensively irrigated. We'll show you that. So I'll go for this walk, and now there's something else. And when I get to the speed bump, just look at the water pattern on that speed bump there. Obviously, it's been rubbed off by the cars here, but there's a great big water pattern there. Now, it might be because I'm a surfer, it might be because I'm a fisherman. I think it's because I've been looking at all of those things and permaculture design for a long time and doing earthworks. That's water. Water was sitting up against this on the last good rain. Now, when I walk down the road, I'm just looking for clues. And this is what you need to do. You need to look for clues. You're like a water detective. You're an environmental detective. You're looking for deposition from wind and water and different growth patterns. There's a reason that things start to go better. So as I'm walking along, I start to see indicators. Actually, let's go back over towards the road a minute. Sorry about the wind, guys. It's just how it is. Look at that. That's detritus. That's debris in a flood up against the road sign. You know, and so looking for more evidence there, debris against the bush there. That's a decent bit of debris there. That's quite a lot of water. It's so flat, this landscape, it's hard to see which way is downhill, but I know now downhill is definitely that way. I thought it was. Okay, look at this. Look at the debris. Look at the debris going down here. Where's it going? Towards the trees. Towards the trees. And let's have a look at the plantation here that hasn't worked. I don't like to point out things that haven't worked, but come on, this is a huge amount of money has been put into this. There's actually debris on the fence. But over there's massive amounts of irrigation, 80,000 trees. And I'd say they haven't got 2% success. And yet, just across the road, they had that after 10 years. It probably picks up, I haven't walked it yet, it probably picks up off those hills and jams up against this road haphazardly, accidentally. We can do this by design, for goodness sake. You know, the world's falling over and we've got earth moving equipment to sensibly do harmonious design. Look at the debris here. It just wraps its way down here towards the successful trees. I mean, come on, hello, it's time to actually wake up a bit here. You know, we want to revegetate the earth, we want to rehabilitate the landscapes. I mean, nowhere is it more obvious than when you achieve it in deserts, because your baseline is dramatically damaged because deserts are so brittle and easily kept damaged. So I'm fascinated by this. That's pretty obvious to you guys, I think. So let's just switch off a second and I'll show you what happens near the dilapidated education centre that's down there, because after it's soaked here, the journey continues down in this direction. So now we're at the other end of the trees. In the far distance you can see our signpost, and our guys are collecting some of the seed from here. The water pass continues down this way, and there wasn't any trees planted just here, so it has a bit of a free track across here. I'm out on sort of a gravel base here. You can see it pulls a little bit here. One or two trees, not many, have survived just at this point near the building, but then something really haphazard starts to happen. There's a track. It kind of works like a quasi slow falling swale, but check that out. There's a track. It's actually the service track. Either side there's failed irrigation, well, failed tree planting on irrigation, all the way to the fence in the distance, hardly a tree. But then there are these clumps of trees down the side of this track. Now, as you walk down this track, you start to see water patterns. You start to see the flow of water. I mean, this is it. You've got to get in the flow. You've got to be in the flow. That means you've got to be in the moment. You've got to be experiencing reality as it actually happens, and you've got to time scout backwards in flow pattern events. There's a flow pattern event. You've got to time scout backwards into what created that. It didn't just magically happen. These are the patterns of creation that we can work with. So we talk about designing patterns in permaculture. We're talking about harmonizing with these patterns. They're patterns of energy expression in media. Now, I'm walking down a water pattern here, and there's got to be a reason why those trees grew on that side and not on that side. Well, the slope actually just hooks over this way. And how do I know that? I'm following the patterns. I'm looking at the patterns. It doesn't matter that they're really subtle desert patterns in their harsh landscape. Everywhere you harmonize with the patterns, when you get in the flow and you start to actually harvest that energy into life. So at this point, right here, it just starts to hook over sideways a little bit, and when it's in full flow, these trees here at this point, just this patch here, get an extra bit of water. And that continues to repeat all the way down here. It's higher on that side, and it's a little bit lower on this side. And it's enough that where there's low points in this track, and you, I'm sure, can see all these little flow patterns, these little ripples going down here. It's going downhill this way. All it accidentally did was harvest some road water runoff. There's a flow pattern off to one side. There's more trees. And again, it just keeps repeating. Patch of trees after patch of trees. And out there, irrigation, massive amounts of irrigation, extremely expensive irrigation that's really non-renewable and totally fails in this hot sun over a period of time. It's failed. It didn't work. And here, natural pattern alignment by accident, not by intention, actually worked wonderfully well. And this is what we can do. This is what we can do in all climates. Of course, in dry lands, It's very, very obvious. You can see it from satellite if you get a large enough system up and running. So there you go, people. Time to learn to see the patterns of life creation in this world, in this universe. They're all the same.